All right, welcome. Intro to web design. This video, what I want you to do, or what us to do, is look at Repl and just give you an introduction into kind of some of the basics of it and how you can use it. So first of all, in Repl, website you go to is repl.it. There is a classroom that we created. And a lot of you have already enrolled in that and have a classroom set up, and it's called Web Design Term 4 2020. And we, again, will use that. We're not going to use that today, but that's one aspect of Repl. But if you just go to Repl and you go to My Repls, right here, click on My Repls. And if you want to start to create just a new page or a new web page where you can type in your code and you can see the results of it, you're just going to click on New Repl. And when you go to New Repl, we are going to be using the HTML, CSS, JavaScript setup. So you might need to scroll down and look for that or type it into the search bar. Since I've already used it, I'm clicking it right here. Here is where you can name your Repl. There's going to be an automatic name that's given to you, but you can type in what you want your Repl to be, and then you can hit create. You can toggle on this private and public, although I'm not sure if you guys will be able to do that. So hit create Repl, and then it's going to take you to where the code is. So I want to give you a little bit of a virtual tour of what Repl looks like. So I would just get acquainted with how this is set up. The first thing you're going to notice is on the left you have you have your files in here. There's 3 different files that you'll see. The first one is a .html file, or index.html. That's what we're going to be working with, and that's where we're going to be putting our code in. You don't have to worry about these other 2. There is a JavaScript .js file that's already there. We're not going to touch this. And there's a .css file that's also in there that we're not going to touch, at least for now. Once we learn CSS and JavaScript, we will start understanding those things. But the only thing we really need to know for now is the .html, where we're going to write our HTML files. If you look at the settings, you can click on settings and you can change your layout of the Repl. So you could go side by side if you want. I like to do mine stacked so that the things are underneath it. Font size, you can change that up. I'm going to keep mine at huge so that when I do these demonstrations you can see it. Tabs, you can just, the indent type, you can change that up. The indent size, if that matters to you, you can change that up. You don't have to worry about key bindings unless you're a hardcore programmer and you actually know what Emacs or Vim is. And then some other stuff in here as well. I guess another thing that you might be interested in is just the theme, right? So you can change it to a light theme, which is probably what you have. If you want to change it to a dark theme, I like that one better. And then you can kind of get rid of that. So you can, when working in Repl, I would try to make, once you're working on code, make it as big as you can and get rid of the sidebars so you can just kind of see it nicely laid out. So you can toggle your settings on and off by going like that. Packages, you don't have to worry about any packages for now, but you can toggle that on and off. Version control, you don't have to worry about, but the files up here, you'll probably toggle this on and off as well, because you might be adding your own image or you might be adding your own video or something like that, and you might want to be adding that to your Repl or your little space here. So now down here is where your output is going to be. So right now we have a web page, and I'm just going to give you, I'm going to talk about some of these tags here, and we're going to get rid of some of them because you don't really need to worry about these at the moment. So the first thing here, I'm just going to give you already did a little bit of Code Academy and started to talk about or understand what these tags are doing. So an HTML document basically is just a set of tags, a set of opening tags and then a closing tag. So you can see in our document here we have something called HTML that's open here, and then way at the bottom we have a closing HTML tag. So what that means is that everything in between here is basically all of our website, all of our HTML information. You will also notice that in every HTML document there is a head section, and the head section is nothing inside the head section is going to actually show up on your web page. This is called all, metadata. So you do not need to know what any of this stuff is right now. So just for the time being, you can, like this little meta character set, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this right here. One thing in the head section you're going to see is a title. And the title is just going to be the title of your website. So the first website that you're going to create by yourself is going to be an About Me page. I'm going to write About Me in here. This link down here is just a link to our CSS. So that means that once we actually starting to type something in this CSS file, which is going to change around like the fonts and how things are laid out, then we would write that in here. But for now, I'm just going to get rid of this because we're not really going to even need it. So let's just get it out. Okay, so now we have our HTML document that's in between here. We have our heading section. We can put all that kind of metadata or just information about our site right here. Inside of the body tag is where everything that's visual on your website is going to show up. All right, so there's another link to a script here, and again, that's going to be for JavaScript. If we created any JavaScript that would make our website, really cool, it might add a lot of different things to it. We would keep this tag and we would write some of our JavaScript in our JavaScript file. But again, starting off, we don't have to worry at all about that. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that. And really, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of what a web page, a really easy framework, would be. So everything inside of this body tag is where we're going to start to code, right? And so this is where your first assignment is going to start. I want you to kind of start like that. And you're going to try to use the tags that you learned in Code Academy, like how to make a heading, how to make a paragraph, how to make an image, how to make different lists. And you're going to practice that. So all you're going to do, for example, if I wanted to make a heading, a big title for my website, I can use one of the H's. Cool thing about Repl is that once I start to type in a tag here, it's gonna pop up with this HTML helper that's gonna say, hey, this is what I think you're trying to do. Do you want to create a heading 1 or a heading 2 or a 3, 4, 5, 6? And so that'll help you remember some of the tags. So heading 1 is my biggest header. And so I'm going to make a tag like that. That means that everything that I write right there is going to be nice and big and bold, and it's going to be the heading of my page. So I'm just going to put something like About Me. Now if I want to close that tag, I'm going to go ahead and do a tag, but then I'm going to hit the slash. And again, the little thing helps me out and says, hey, are you trying to do this? And you can do that if you hit tab, or if you just click on that, it'll automatically, finish it off for you. But feel free to just type out those characters. So all we did here is we added a heading to the website here. And if I want to see what that looks like, I'm going to click on Run. So if I click on Run, you're going to see that the website down here shows About Me as the heading. Now what I like to do is, this is kind of hard to see. What I like to do is, you can see that there is a little pop-out button here that says Open in a New Tab. I would click on that. And then now you're going to have a separate tab with your live website basically right here. And everything that you type back in your code is then going to reflect on this website right here. So personally, I don't like this actually down here unless I really need to see it. So I might actually drop this down and get rid of it so that I don't see it. It's up to you how you want to do it. Sometimes it's nice to have it both ways, but I'm going to drop this down below here, and I like to have this big screen where I can type in my code, and then if I want to see the changes, I'll go to my other tab on Chrome, and then I can just refresh the page and see what has changed. So for example, I don't know, I'll just put, let me just change that heading a little bit, and if I go to my next tab over here in Chrome and I just hit like refresh, you can see that the website, our current website that we're creating, is updated because the code, the actual HTML code, has changed in here as well. So again, for that first assignment, you are going to kind of just experiment with this and try to just pretty much from scratch try to create the different tags that we've been talking about, the different tags that you saw in Code Academy, to create a little bit of an About Me page with this. So down here, now everything inside of body, is where you're going to put your code. And by the way, if I hit enter a bunch of times, like if I just space things out like that, that's not going to change anything about my code. The computer will recognize any white space, any of those enter, and it'll just ignore it. So feel free to do that just to organize your code. And make sure you're using good indentation. So what I mean by that is that you can see that I have a body tag here, and here's the start, and here's the finish. And you can see there's a little line here that just kind of indicates this whole portion is the body portion of the web page. If I'm going to put in a child element, then I'm going to tab in. So you can see that my first heading, and it does it automatically for you. Repl will automatically indent the code for you, and that's not a bad thing. And you can see that since heading 1 is inside of body, in other words, heading 1 is a child element of body, that it's indented. It basically has tabbed over here. And so that's always good practice. Let's say that I have, like, here, let me just copy and paste a bunch of these. Let's say that I have a bunch of headings in here, right? It's really easy to visually see this when you're reading the code. It makes it much more easy to read if I've indented all the child elements. So I have body right here, and then I have a bunch of stuff in here. Now these could be paragraphs, this could be a link, this could be an image, but you can see it's all indented. And then if I had, I could keep on going. It's possible that, well, actually if you look at line 3, right? Line 3 is actually saying this is the HTML tag. In between these two things is just all of my HTML. It's kind of like the whole document. And you can see the heading is inside of HTML, so it's tabbed in, it's indented a little bit. But even inside of head, there's another thing called title, and you can see that's indented. So you can see there's this kind of like hierarchy. The further we go into that element, we would keep tabbing over. And of course, these are going to stay, these heading 1s would stay the same because they're all underneath, body. If we check that out, refresh it, you can see my page is going to refresh here. So I'm going to get rid of this. Feel free to just kind of mess around with just the interface of Repl. You can change the name of this, which I would recommend, right? So if you click on edit up here, you can change the name of this so that you can see it easily in your, your dashboard. And you could say something like, this is the About Me website. And you could put a description here and do all that. When you submit something, there's a couple different ways to do it. if you click on share, you have a live link to your website right here. So you could just share this link with it. You could also, and I may have you do this in your assignments, you can click on invite, and you can invite me to your Repl, so that, or actually, yeah, you can click on invite, and then you can just give this link right here to me. That will allow me to actually type in your document, any changes that I want or any notes that I want, so I can write in it. But those are the two ways you can share or submit things through Repl. All right. So again, just play around with this, get really comfortable with this layout, with the interface of Repl, and then you'll use this to create that first website, the About Me website.